Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Welcome back. Earlier, I had the honor to talk to Dr. Ben Carson. Now, Dr. Carson has been in the news lately. He is a very noted pediatric neurosurgeon, headed up that department there at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He recently has been catapulted into national prominence as a result of being the keynote speaker at the National Prayer Breakfast a year or so ago, where he openly criticized Obamacare when the president was sitting right there at his right shoulder. So it was a very interesting time. In the meantime, he has been on all the networks, and there's even a campaign to draft him to run for president. He's authored several books, and it's been several years since I've had an opportunity to interview Dr. Carson, earlier of which we talked about his book's Healing Hands. But his latest book is this one, One Nation, What We Can All Do to Save America's Future. And so join me as we talk to Dr. Ben Carson. Well, today we have the high honor of having with us Dr. Ben Carson. I'm sure you have seen him or heard him on a lot of the networks around the country. He's recently retired as the Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. It's been quite a few years since we've chatted with Dr. Carson. When he first authored his book, Gifted Hands, his personal testimony is an inspiring story, to say the least. But we want to talk to him today about his latest book. And may I recommend you getting this book and reading it, One Nation, What We Can All Do to Save America's Future. And it's a fabulous book, and you may want to check it out at the bookstores or online at Amazon. Dr. Carson, nice to have you, my friend.
Thank you. Good to be back with you after all these years.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have been catapulted in the news, obviously, as a result of your interesting speech during the National Prayer Breakfast, which I commend you for. And I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on you to consider public office. But of all the books, why did you write one about the nation? What's on your heart about America?
Well, I was very concerned about the division in our nation. You know, a wise man once said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And that's exactly what I saw happening to our nation. And our strength is in our unity and in having a vision that we can all get behind. But instead, you know, there are many factors in our society that want just the opposite. They want to divide us. And hence you have a war on women, racial wars, income wars, age wars, religious wars, you name it, there's a war on it. And I think it's quite intentional because there is a desire on behalf of some to fundamentally change America from what it is to the, quote, utopian society. And there have been others who've tried for this utopian society where nobody has to worry about anything from cradle to grave. Government takes care of you. All you have to do is be subservient. And that's just not the American way, quite frankly. And all of those, quote, utopian societies end up looking the same way, with a small group of very elites at the top who have luxurious lives and control everything, a rapidly vanishing middle class, and a rapidly expanding dependent class. You don't have to be much of an observer to see that that's exactly what's happening to us. And we don't need to do that. You know, we have the ability. This is the most powerful economic engine the world has ever seen. All we have to do is let it go, let it work. Stop fettering it with a million regulations and oppressive taxation. You know, these things have worked in the past. They will work for us again. And somehow we've been asleep at the wheel, and we've allowed, over the process of not just this administration, but over the process of decades, our freedoms and the things that really made America into a great nation slip away from us. And it's time to claim them back.
Dr. Carson, we seem to be so polarized. And if anything, as a doctor, maybe you'd understand this, but it seems like we are suffering from a severe case of cynicism. And even among people that we may ideologically agree, we're not being very respectful. I've never seen it this bad. And can we bring it together?
We can, but bear in mind, you know, the nation is sort of like a third grade classroom where there's no teacher. I mean, what happens? Everybody's throwing spitballs and jumping over seats until the teacher arrives. Well, we haven't really had leadership in this country for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. The current administration is interested in division, not in unity. The administration before that was interested in the war. And you keep going back for quite some time before you get a place where you had the kind of inspirational leadership that actually points a direction and helps people to be able to move in that direction rather than just deteriorate into their own little groups, interest groups, and fight each other. This is what we have right now.
One of the issues, and I think it's one of the core spiritual issues of America, is the abortion issue. And I know it's very sensitive and very controversial, but on the other hand, it's very, very spiritual. And if we can correct this one, it seems that all the other things that God would be interested in helping us with would fall into alignment. Well,
it's interesting that we sit around and call other ancient civilizations heathen because of human sacrifice, but aren't we actually guilty of the same thing? Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I think is so important for Christians and for conservatives, if we're ever going to win this war with abortion, we have to be able to talk about it. Mm. We can't just get in a little corner and shield ourselves off and say, this is my issue and I can't deal with anything else. And I liken it very much to the story of Esther in the Bible. Mm. She was a Jew, and she hid the fact that she was a Jew. I'm sure a lot of people were not happy about that. Well, you ashamed, and you got no principles. But she had a larger goal in mind, and she was able to marry the king and to deliver her people. And it's the same way with the abortion issue. We take people and we castigate them because they may not agree with us on the abortion issue, but they agree with 95% of other conservative principles, and we say we want nothing to do with them. That's the same as voting for the other person. And you're going to have a much better chance of bringing that 95%er along than the one who disagrees with you on 100% of issues. You've got to get your critical masses into place so that you can actually affect legislation. And the good thing is the American populace is moving closer and closer to understanding that abortion is murder. Yes. Every year, we're getting better on that regard. So I think it can be done, but we have to be, smart enough not to allow ourselves to believe, as the dividers would, hey, you got to stick to this, and if you relent in any way, you are abandoning your principles and your values. They're playing us. Wow. And we have to take the Esther approach, get ourselves into positions where we can actually change it, and then we can save all the babies. Even at the point, if I perish, I perish. Right? Even at the point of if I perish, I perish. All right. The book is titled One Nation by Dr. Ben Carson, and let me encourage you to get a copy of this at the bookstores. It's in 3 sections, 17 chapters plus, and it deals with all of the issues in America. But more importantly, I think what Dr. Carson has done here, he's given some very, very good solutions. Dr. Carson... And I will just say one interesting thing. The secular progressives have tried everything they can to ignore the book, but it's still #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Congratulations. Well deserved. We seem to be in a complete meltdown with this administration, especially within the last 4 or 5 days. I mean, it is in complete meltdown and almost lawless. Maybe it's totally lawless. As bad as that is, what I see happening as a response to this is the citizenry now are realizing, we're way past where we should be, and I'm beginning to sense a pushback. Do you sense that? Oh, without question. I mean, that's what happened to Eric Cantor. And you're going to see it to a much larger extent, I think, in November. A lot of people are going to be scratching their heads. But I think people are starting to wake up. They are realizing that what we are going to pass on to our next generation is not going to resemble anything that we've known before. And, a large portion of the population was deceived, with this whole hope and change, and everything's going to be flowery, and no red states and no blue states. Just, this obviously was all a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing with the IRS thing. I mean, this is unbelievable. That they now expect you to believe that the emails were lost, the pertinent ones. I mean, it just insults the intelligence of a fourth grader. Sorry to all the fourth graders. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
All right. Now, I know there's a lot of pressure on you to consider running for office, but hypothetically, if you were president for a day, how would you start healing America?
Well, first of all, I would make it very clear that we have a Constitution, and that it is a extremely well thought out and well done document that led us to the pinnacle of the world in record time, and that we will once again place it front and center. In that Constitution, the First Amendment talks about freedom of religion. I will make sure that people understand that I have no intention of foisting my beliefs on anybody else. However, I do believe that we all have rights, including Christians, including people who are people of faith. They don't have to hide their faith. They can live by it. I think the other thing that I will make very clear is that we have the most powerful economic engine the world has ever known, and we're going to let it loose. We're going to stop regulating it to death. We have dozens of new regulations every single week coming out of Washington, encircling business, industry, and academia. All they have to do is pull the noose on anybody who doesn't cooperate, get rid of all that kind of stuff, completely change the tax code to something that's fair and makes sense. The highest corporate tax rates in the world, absolutely absurd if you want business to flourish in your country. Personal taxes, absolutely ridiculous and not encouraging hard work and entrepreneurship. Yeah. Get rid of all of those kinds of things. Begin to develop our own natural resources. Use our EPA to work with our universities and with industry to find the safest, most effective ways to develop our energy, not to stifle the development of what is a blessing for us, and to use that energy on a geopolitical scale. Make Europe dependent on us for energy, not on the Soviet Union. Put Putin back in his box. Start doing things that actually make sense. I think it would make a big difference.
Boy, that is a powerful statement. Quickly, would you, if you were president for a day, would you abolish the IRS and Obamacare?
There would be no need for the IRS because because we would come up with a very simplified system of taxation that applies equally to everyone in a proportionate way. Okay. So you wouldn't need any IRS. I think it's an abomination, quite frankly.
Okay. And Obamacare?
Obamacare cannot be fixed because the problem with Obamacare is the shifting of power. The most important thing that we have from the individual to the government. That can't stand. That needs to be removed. We need to put the power back in the hands of the people and their health care providers. And I've talked in the book about how health savings accounts can do that. Everybody has one from the day that they are born. Right. They control it. And that will bring the whole health care system into the free market. Right. That's what controls quality. That's what controls price.
Finally, Dr. Carson, if you feel led to run for president, and if you were elected, would you do me a favor?
What's that?
I would like for you to stand when you give your first State of the Union address at the podium there, and force the cameras to pan above your head about 8 feet. And
that's a great picture.
And point to the words inscribed in marble. It says, "In God we trust."
Yeah.
And then say whatever the Lord leads you to say in reference to that verse.
Okay. Remind me when that day comes. But yes, I think I can remember to do that.
Are you giving it thought?
I am. Reluctantly. It's certainly not what I intended to do. But the Lord directs your steps, and you have to be always listening to what he says. And I don't know what the role is that he has for me. I don't know if it's in the executive branch. I don't know if it's just as a sentinel to help people wake up. But he will make it clear as time goes on. I'll be very interested in what happens in November, obviously, because the people will have an opportunity to demonstrate Do they want to continue down this road of big government invasion in every part of our lives and the fundamental change of our society? Or do they actually believe in the America that became the greatest and strongest nation that the world has ever known? They will give us that indication in November, and obviously that will inform what else needs to be done. And I should just mention, since I'm in your area, Monica Webby is a good person. Don't listen to all the stuff that they're saying as they try to destroy her character. I've known her for many, many years, and she's an outstanding individual.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Carson, and thanks for your time. Best to you. And again, the book is entitled One Nation, What We Can All Do to Save America's Future. This is a must-read, especially between now and November. Get a copy of this book and read it. Thank you, my friend. You remain in our prayers. And
I appreciate it.
If you are elected, I'll try to shoot you an email and make sure you remember to do that on your first Day of the Union address.
Well, I'm going to try to make sure that you're there.
Blessings to you. Thanks for your time.
All right. Take care.
Hi, Dr. Ben Carson. Fascinating. We're going to do an open line. We haven't done that in quite a while. We're going to give you a chance to call in, maybe comment on Dr. Carlson's comments. And also, we're going to run for you a video coming up in just a moment of an incredible thing that happened on national network news. I've never seen this in all the years of being in broadcasting. We're going to share that with you and then open up the phone lines and give you a chance to comment. All that and more coming up in a few moments.